Okay, we are going to get started on lesson 22, the adjectival use of the participle. We looked at the participle last week in lesson 21. We looked at the middle and the passive participle in lesson 21. Do you have any questions? Was there any questions or follow-ups on the middle and passive participle? We kind of went through it pretty quickly. I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you might have before we plow into lesson 22.
Well, you introduced us at the end of class to how the participle would actually be translated.
Right.
Who is, whatever the verb.
Right.
Are we going to start translating participles now?
Yes, that's what we're going to be doing. So, okay, all right. Well, let's take a look at our vocabulary before we get started. Our first word is arithmos. Arithmos. Can you say arithmos?
Arithmos.
Okay, and arithmos is number, which is where we get our word arithmetic, which is kind of cool. Then also on. On. Now notice this is an untranslatable particle introducing a contingent statement, usually shows indefiniteness. Okay, now just to give you a little hint, you'll just see this. It'll just pop up in a sentence, okay? It's untranslatable. You don't translate it, it's usually introducing something as it says there, okay? Don't lose a lot of sleep over it, but you will find it. It will pop up, okay? Just remember, untranslatable particle.
What is a particle?
Okay, a particle is just, it's not really a word, it's just a piece of a word. I'll call it a particle. Okay, introducing a contingent statement usually shows indefiniteness. Now you will see, let me give you an example. Let's see where the conditional sentences start up. It's been so long since I've been in this that I can't remember. Okay, yeah. Okay, so if you go to page 120, I'll give you some examples of where you'll find this untranslatable particle. Okay, so on page 120, this is where we deal with our conditional clauses. You know, if, then, if such and such, then such and such, right? And you'll notice under the second class conditional sentence, they use the on, right? On. See it there? Okay?
No.
And then,
Oh, is it if then? It's before there's like a 204,
You see page
205, 206, it's before that section.
should be page 120.
Go from 118 to the special insert.
It's right before the special insert
Okay,
204
gotcha. All right, I see it now.
on that side.
Okay. So if you look under the apodosis, so you've got prodosis and then apodosis at the top. You go down, you'll find that under the apodosis and under the second class, you have the on, and you see it again in the fourth class, on. Okay. Now, on does not mean then, okay, but it just signals that that's what it's supposed to be, a then, right?
Okay.
So you'll see that show up in a sentence, in a conditional clause, in a conditional sentence. So if he were speaking, if you look at the first one, if he were speaking, you would see an on, right? See that on there in the example?
Mm-hmm.
I would go. Okay, I would go. So you'll see the on, and all the on is there doing is just pointing to the fact that this is a conditional clause, and you need to supply it then. Okay, that's all that it's there. But if it doesn't have that on, okay, then it's probably a third class conditional sentence or a first class conditional sentence.
So do they not actually have a translation for the word then?
For on,
No, for the actual English word then.
then, well, I don't think I've seen one. Yeah, that's a good question. But the way we use it then,
Yeah.
the way we use it, in the
But the
conditional
if-then
clause.
statements, yeah.
Yeah, then the on would be roughly equivalent to that in the second class and the fourth class. But in the first and third class, you don't have an on, but you just supply then. You would supply it because that's the way we speak in English. That's the way we do it in if-then clause. So, all right. So just give you an example of where that'll pop up. Okay. Keep your finger there in 120 because I'll show you an example of another one. Okay. And then the next vocabulary is I. Okay, and that is if. It's if with the indicative. If I am running, okay, and so that would be the indicative verb. The next one is aeon. See that? Aeon. Okay? And that is also if, but with the subjunctive. So, like for instance, in the subjunctive, if you go to page 120, the subjunctive would be a third class. You'll find it in the third class.
Okay.
If he should be speaking, I will go. Then I will go. See that? How that works? And that's when, so in a conditional clause, when you see the aeon, then you automatically say to yourself, I've got a third class conditional sentence. Okay, I've got a third class. If I've got an I, then I've either got a first, second, or fourth.
It's saying that the aeon then is actually a combination of I and on page 85 in your vocabulary section.
Oh, combination of A and on. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how that works unless that's just some feature of the Greek text or the Greek language. That I don't know, but that's what it says, so we'll go with it. Okay. Un. Okay. Do you have that un? Okay. And that is therefore or then. And then also, there's your then, but it's more of a therefore more than a. Well, I guess you would use then the same way as you use therefore, right?
So why isn't
Yes.
un ever in this
Huh?
page 120? Why isn't un ever used?
Because it's not. It's
not
that's
a
what I'm
given.
saying. The then in a first class or in any conditional sentence, the then doesn't have a word that corresponds with it. Okay, it's just not there.
Like we use then at the beginning of a sentence to say, then this happened.
Yeah, then this happened, but not in a Greek conditional clause. And we say it, we'll say, therefore, I will go, after I've said something else, So you'd use then, or you could use then, but I don't know that then in a conditional clause is used the same way that then would be used here.
Right.
So, anyway. Okay, then akostos.
Acostas.
Which is each, and then
Is that heavy breathing? Hekostas, or is it just
let's
hekostas?
see here. Oh yeah, hekostos. Okay, hekostos. Okay, right. And then dikaios. Dikaios, and that's right, just, or righteous.
For Cowboy's sake, since you didn't cover the lesson 21 vocab, did you want to read over that?
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Okay, going back to lesson 21, we'll go over the vocabulary for that. Okay, on the vocabulary, the first word is hos. Hos, and that is as, that, how, or about. Context will indicate the proper translation. Those you will come across quite readily. You'll come across those. Okay, then Allah.
Allah.
That's but or except, strong adversative. Okay. Then apaluo. I am releasing. And then we have irene. That's peace. Peace. And then thalassa. Okay, and that's C. I don't come across that very much that I remember, and especially in 1 John. Okay, where am I here? Okay, okoya. Okoya. Akoya, okay, Akoya.
Akoya.
I'm thinking oikos.
Is it Ia? I was gonna say, isn't that the same, didn't we have that
Yeah,
there before?
yeah, Akoya, so it'd be oikia, or oikia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I keep wanting to say oikoios. Oikos. See, now I'm messing up my word. Oikos.
So
Okay.
it's Oikia.
Oikia. Okay. Yes. Oikia. Okay. All right. House. All right. Halos. Halos, which is whole.
Halas.
Halos. Okay. And then heteros.
Heteros.
Heteros is another. Okay. Now notice I want to make a point here on this. So heteros is another of a different kind. It's where we get our word heterodoxy or
Like heterosexual even would be.
heterosexual, right? Would be another way of saying that. So I'm attracted to another of a different kind. Okay, so but then you've got the corresponding word, which is allos, another of a similar kind.
Alas.
Right, allos. Now, sometimes you'll find this in the Greek where they will switch those words, and we talked about a different word for the same thing. Is it exegetically significant? Yes, it is exegetically significant, at least in this particular case, and particularly when you get into John 14:16, when Jesus starts talking about sending another comforter, right? Another comforter. Could somebody give me the verse on that?
For what? John.
John 4, or what's Jesus is talking about sending another comforter. Oh, wow, I can do it right here. I didn't bring my English Bible, so I wasn't sure exactly.
14:16. And I will pray the Father, and He shall give you another Comforter, that He may abide with you forever.
So you said John, what?
14:16.
14:16. Man, that is really, it's messing up my hearing. If your voice gets caught right in that same range, then okay. So in John 14:16. Okay. So he says that I will pray to the Father, and Alon, Comforter. He will send an Alon Comforter. Okay? Alon. Okay, what that means is another of the same kind, a similar kind. Another of a similar kind. Okay? So he's wanting to draw a parallel between him and the Holy Spirit. So he's going to send another, not me, I'm leaving, okay? But then he's going to send someone like me, okay? And then that tells me a couple of things. One, it's going to be a person, okay? It's going to be a person, so the Holy Spirit's not a force, right? It's not just some mystical thing, It's a person, just like Jesus was, but not Jesus, a different person. So that tells me that there's a distinction in the triune Godhead, right? But also another of a similar kind tells me that he's going to be God. He will be God. So this is exegetically significant when it comes down to the doctrine of the Holy Spirit. Okay? Now he could have said heteros, right? If he used heteros, then it would be another of a different kind. Then we've got different fish and fry there, right? So now he could very well have said, I'll ask the Father, and He'll send a heteros, and then he could be referring to like a John the Baptist figure or something, some great prophet, or what have you. But by using the word allos, then he is making this statement that it's going to be another just like me. Okay. All right. Okay, go to the next one. We've got hetoimos. Hetoimos, that's ready, to be prepared. And then kalos, which is beautiful or good. Okay. And then pros. Okay, that's 4. Okay, now this is a preposition, so we have for with the ablative, okay, or genitive, right? Notice it occurs only in Acts 17:34. It's a nice little thing to have. At with the locative, okay, or with the dative, right? So we would use at with the dative, and then to, towards, with, or before with the accusative. Okay, pros is related to prosopon, which is face, hence before is used in the sense of face to face. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, now one of the things you're finding too, the way the vocabulary in this book is set up, is it starts with most common words that you will find in the New Testament to the least common words in the New Testament, right? So as you're moving along, you will notice that I will be less familiar with certain words, and the reason why is because these are words that are used less and less and less and less. Now you need to know them, but you will find that as you get into the New Testament, particularly 1 John, some of these words will pop up, but the ones in the beginning of the book are going to pop up a whole lot more than the ones toward the end of the book. And then you'll find that also in the Gospel of John, where the same writer's using the same vocabulary, and so you'll see that similar pattern. But then when you get into Philippians, you get into Luke, Acts, things like that, now you're going to start finding these words are going to show up more, and then a lot of others too that you've never even seen before, But that's why you have lexicons. You'll find you'll be able to find those words. Okay. All right, well, let's go back to lesson 22, and we are looking at the adjectival use of the participle. This is where we go from theoretical, where we've been talking about what a participle looks like, how you build a participle, how you parse a participle, but we have not yet gone over how to translate a participle. As was stated in paragraph 112, the participle is a verbal adjective. Okay, it's a verbal adjective. Okay, tell me, what is a verbal adjective?
Oh boy, now you're putting me on the spot. It's an adjective that's used on the verbal side, I would call it, say, on the verbal side of the sentence. For example, if you had a predicate object or a predicative, the adjective would modify the predicative.
Well, it's much more about the idea. Let's start off with adjective. What is an adjective? Okay, an adjective modifies a noun, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's what it modifies a noun. But this particular adjective has a verbal component to it, right?
So it's like an adverb.
So you could say, Sam, the one who runs across the street, likes that girl, right? Say it that way.
So it's a verbal clause, basically.
Right, yeah, but it's modifying Sam now, right? It's not the action. It's not the action. Now it can be used that way, but let's just focus purely on what a verbal adjective is.
Okay.
Stephanie, the one who cooks really great, is going to make dinner tonight. So who cooks really great? That's modifying Stephanie. Right? So that's the adjective component, but it's talking about what she's doing. She does something. So that's the verb.
So where I was trying to define it as an adjective that's put on the your verbal side of the sentence, it's really a verb that's used as an adjective.
Yeah.
Verbal form.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of one of those things that does two things. That's why it has case. It has a case and all of that, and it has a tense.
But it also has a verb.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have
a participle.
It's a participle, right? And that's where it's verbal. That's why they say verbal. It's kind of like it's like saying it's verbish.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead as we go through. We'll start to get a better understanding